Today, we're going to talk about how to form a corporation. Hi, my name is Taylor Darcy with Darcy Law. I work with startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses to help them with their legal needs. A corporation, as we've talked about in other videos, is a business entity. A business entity allows you certain protections and rights. Something that you have as a person, but a business you have to actually do something for. So that's important because if you don't form a corporation right or don't keep up on the corporate formalities, it can have serious and significant consequences for you. So today we're going to kind of talk about the nuts and bolts of forming a corporation. So the very first thing that you have to do is file with the Secretary of State the Articles of Incorporation. It outlines certain things that you're going to decide ahead of time. The number of shares, the par value of the shares, who is going to be the initial registered agent, which is we talk about in a different video, so take a look at that video. That's the first step. There's a filing fee depending on the state. This is for California specific, in that for a corporation or a regular general corporation, it's $100. Now, there are different types of corporations, but for today's video, we're just going to be talking about regular corporation. After you've filed the Articles of Incorporation with the Secretary of State, then you have to have bylaws, and the bylaws outline the way that the corporation will be handled. Now, the reason why that's important is because there are certain default rules that you don't necessarily always want. And so if you follow those default rules, then you're stuck with whatever the government or what the law says under those instances. And so what you can do, though, is in your bylaws, you can specify when those default rules are where you want to differ from those default rules. And so in the bylaws, you can outline that structure of how you want to manage the business. And it'll also go through who's the CFO, who's the chief executive officer, all of that sort of thing. So you're going to take special care to make sure that you craft your bylaws correctly, because this is part of the corporate formalities. Another thing that you'll do as you form a corporation is you're going to have a board of directors meeting where you're essentially going to outline everything that you're going to do. You have to keep these formalities. You have to write down the things that you intend to do. For instance, who is going to be the CEO? Who is going to be the CFO? And that has to be voted on. That can't just be, now, it can't just be somebody that you just decide, whatever, we don't care. Now, a small corporation is slightly different, so we're talking about a lot of variations here. But for this purpose, we're going to talk about a normal corporation. They have to be voted on. Things like a bank account. Where are you going to hold your bank? Who's going to be authorized to do transactions on your bank account? And all of those things would happen in the minutes. And then you have to have resolutions, which a resolution is just the board resolving to do something. For instance, appointing the CEO or hiring the CEO, hiring the chief financial officer, hiring the secretary. So that's the next part of it. Minutes are important because it shows that there was a thought process that went with it. And again, these are all things that are important to forming a corporation. The next thing that you'll do is you'll have to have, obviously, a business license if you are in an area that requires a business license, and that depends on whether you're in the incorporated area, such as the city, versus if you're in a unincorporated area, which like the county is for instance in that. So you'll need a business license. You'll also need an EIN. And you can get the EIN from the IRS. The next part is you'll need stock certificates that issue stock to your stockholders. And basically, it's a formal agreement that says what ownership interest that you have in that company. And you'll have like a stock log that will list who owns the stock in those. So as it's a matter of corporate record, who owns that particular stock. All of those things combined, you're also going to want to have a separate bank account. This isn't something that you're going to want to commingle. I've talked about in other videos about piercing the corporate veil. Well, one of those elements is, are you keeping up with these formalities? Are you doing the steps that are required to show that your business is a separate entity from yourself? If you have the same bank account, or you use the bank account from your business to pay your personal bills, all of those things go into whether or not you receive the benefit of the corporation, which is the liability shield. Now, in other videos I talked about, or in the other video about why you'd want to form a corporation for the limited liability purpose, that's what we're talking about. So this video is very important, because if you set up a corporation, and I've helped many companies do this, where they set it up through a certain provider that I will not name, but, well, actually, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go with it. Legalzoom, for instance. I can't tell you how many people have set up something through Legalzoom, and then it's not been set up correctly, because Legalzoom can't give you legal advice. That's just a fact. They can't. They're not attorneys. All they can do is process the paperwork. Well, the problem with processing paperwork is that there are decisions that need to be made, and those decisions are made in the process of doing the bylaws, doing the minutes, doing the resolutions, all of these things that go into forming a corporation. LegalZoom can't advise on those things. You have to have decided those things ahead of time, which you think, oh, well, that's no big deal. But what they send you, though, is crap. Like, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. They send you these fill-in-the-blank forms that you have no idea what they mean, what they're the general person doesn't have any idea. It's okay. It's not, you're not expected to. That's what an attorney is for. That's what a professional advisor is for, whether it's me or someone else. And so, you can use these other services, but I've had to fix more corporations that were started by LegalZoom than I could possibly tell you, because of those reasons. So this is a very important point, that you understand that the steps sound easy, but in reality, if it's not done correctly, it can have dire consequences. That protection that you're thinking about, that you thought you had, will be non-existent. So it's very important that you form a corporation the right way. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd love to help. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. I'm here to help. Have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you soon.